Shalom, everyone. Today I am here with Sister Alfata Roth and Sister Dawn, and we're just having a wonderful time of fellowship and gathering here in Missouri. I want to encourage everyone to be watching, should be on Dawn's channel. Hopefully tomorrow we'll be doing a word study on her channel, so be kind of looking for that. Today I want to look at this root line in the Ancient Hebrew Lexicon. We're doing it on the Bride Line series that's out there. We're going to take a little break from that, and today we're just going to walk through this one, just a one-time deal. It's actually on page 72 in the Ancient Hebrew Lexicon. So not only will we be using that by Jeff Benner, but we'll be using the Strong's, as well as the Apostolic Bible Polyglot. Lots of times I use the 1828 dictionary, as well as the Greek Concordance to the Septuagint by Hatch and Redpath. So if you have these resources, I would encourage you to be following along. If you don't have them, to get them. Praise Yah. So I'm going to pull up a PowerPoint slide, and I'm hoping it's going to stay up the whole time, because so that my words continue to match what's coming out of my mouth, because sometimes it throws it off a little bit. So again, we're going to start on page 72 in Jeff Benner's Ancient Hebrew Lexicon. So I'm going to pull up on the screen my PowerPoint so that we can see. Oh, and it's working. Praise Yah. He's so good. Okay, so the verse that I started with here is Mark 4, verses 26 to 29. And he said, speaking of Yeshua, the reign of Elohim is as when a man scatters seed on the ground, then sleeps by night and rises by day. While the seed sprouts and grows, he himself does not know how. For the soil yields crops by itself, first the blade, then the head. After that, the completed grain in the head. And when the crop is ready, immediately he puts the sickle in, because the harvest has come. So the thing I want to talk about are these completed heads that are inside of the grain. What do they look like? Who do they look like? How have they been acting? What are they taking into themselves? Where are they going? So there's a whole plethora of questions just about the grains that are in the head that are going to be covered in this root line. So going to the root line in the Ancient Hebrew Lexicon, we see it's at 1043. It's a bait and a resh. Again, Jeff Benner has done such an amazing work. We would not be where we are today if it had not been for this lexicon that he has put forth. We see the action is to feed, the concrete is grain. The pictograph bait is a picture of a tent, but also represents the family, which resides inside the tent. The resh is a picture of a head. Combined, these have the meaning of family of heads. The plant families of grain, such as wheat, there's a harvest, and barley, there's a harvest, have a cluster of seeds at the top of the stalk called heads. These grains were used for food for both man and livestock. So we see the very first root there is an A, N. We won't be covering absolutely every line in this root, every single one, but we're going to go through quite a few of them. So at the AN, we see the A family root. The concrete is grain. Grains grown in fields were used for meal to make flour, as well as feed for the livestock. The stalks of the grains were burned to make potash for making soap. What is cleaned with soap becomes white or bright. At the end, we see there's a definition of grain. Grain and field is a place for growing grain. Soap, made from the ashes of the grain stalks. And clean, cleanliness from the soap. Also pure as a moral cleanliness. And then we can see at the bottom there, after STR, these are the different Strong's numbers that actually go to this one word. So what do those, right now we're aiming for the first resurrection. So what do those in the first resurrection, going to be a family of heads, not only are going to be feeding people, but also are going to be harvested in the first resurrection, have in common according to this family root? Let's look at the Strong's number in that root, H1249. It's pure. It's from 1305. In its various senses, beloved, also pure, empty. In the 1828 Webster's Dictionary, we see the word pure, separate from all heterogeneous or extraneous matter, free, clear from mixture. There's no mixed matter going to be in the seed of the first resurrection, because that's where the bride is coming from. It can't be mixed to start off with. Or you're going to be producing fruit that is mixed. Free from moral defilement, without spot, thinking blemish maybe, not sullied or tarnished, incorrupt, undebased by moral turpitude, holy, kodesh, set apart, genuine, real, true, incorrupt, unadulterated, unmixed, separate from any other subject or from everything foreign. Number 6 was probably one of my favorites. Not vitiated with improper or corrupt words or phrases, as a pure style of discourse or composition. And we're going to really hone in on that when we look at the language. Number 8 is chaste, as a pure virgin, free from anything improper, as his motives are pure. So we're going to start out again with this 1249, and we see it in Psalm 24. It's actually in verse 4, but let's read the psalm. The earth belongs to Yahweh and all that fills it. It's because that's what he did from the very beginning. He's filled it all up with everything from the L to the Ta. It's a conglomeration of all those letters, those 2-letter parent roots that has filled it up, that has put everything in its proper order. The world and those who dwell in it, so are we. It's not just the world, it's not just the Shemaim and the Eretz, but the people who dwell in it need to be filled with the proper things of that language in that order, which we're going to see. For he has founded it upon the seas, and upon the waters he does establish it. Who does go up to the mountain of Yahweh, and who does stand in his set-apart place? He who has innocent hands and a pure heart, a barar heart. The authority that is inside of him has been that he is allowed to be inside of him has been refined. He is a family of heads. He is part of the family of heads. He has grown up from the seed that's been planted because it's been watered and nurtured, and he's allowed himself to grow up into this complete whole stalk that is ready for the harvest when the harvesters come, who did not bring his life to naught and did not swear deceivingly. He receives a blessing from Yahweh and righteousness from the Elohim of his deliverance. This is a generation of those who seek him. You need to seek him with everything that you have. You need to let go of, we need to let go of everything that is of this world, that is at enmity with Yahweh Elohim, and seek him and the food that he is providing. Jacob, who seek your face, Selah. Lift up your heads, O you gates, and be lifted up, you everlasting doors, and let the sovereign of esteem come in. Who is this sovereign of esteem? Yahweh strong and Gabor. Yahweh Gabor in battle. And that's another word that we'll see later on in this study. He is mighty, warrior, to prevail. And if his seed is planted in us, Yahweh Zavot, we should be strong, mighty warriors in this battle, just as the one that we follow. Lift up your heads, O you gates, even lift up, you everlasting doors, and let the sovereign of esteem come in. Who is this sovereign of esteem? Yahweh of hosts. He is the sovereign of esteem. So we know that when we go up to the mountain of Yahweh and stand in his set apart place, we know him. We are made like him. And it tells us in Matthew 5:8, blessed, happy, righteous, straight. It's not the blessed that we think that it might be, are the clean, the pure in heart, because they shall see Elohim. They shall be made like him. They shall know him. So what do we need to do to have this clean, barar heart, one that's following the instructions back to him who was from the beginning, the bait, resh? We need to empty ourselves of ourselves. We must decrease so that he can increase. We must die to this flesh and everything it wants. And the world wants to feed it, and the enemy wants to feed it. So a clean heart is broken and contrite. Psalm 51:17 and 18. The slaughterings, or living sacrifices, of Elohim are a broken spirit, a heart broken and crushed. O Elohim, these you do not despise. Do your good pleasure to Zion, which is where the people in the first resurrection are going to be going when he picks us up and carries us there. Build the walls of Yerushalayim, the new Yerushalayim. So we see this broken, heart broken and crushed. We see the broken, 28:11b, in the ancient Hebrew lexicon. The first definition is to burst out or through. The second definition is exchange, to buy or sell produce, usually grain. At the three-letter root there, we see the action is burst. The concrete is grain. The grain is placed on the threshing floor or in the millstone and crushed to burst out the seeds from the hulls. We see it comes from the Peresh. Okay. So we have this heart that is broken. We are allowing to burst forth in us by feeding and nurturing the correct seed. That is the one we're allowing to burst forth. And when that happens, most of the time your heart's broken until you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. So we have this grain that is crushed or burst out. The seed that's been planted in us, as it's getting nurtured, as it's getting water, then begins to burst forth over the other seed that the enemy would like to feed. Because we see the other half of this is the heart is crushed. It's at 1088 HV. The V is to bruise. My first thought is, you will bruise his head, he will bruise your heel. The concrete is bruised, something that is bruised by beating it. Okay, we need to beat this thing down. The action is crushed, the concrete is mortar. The pictograph dal is a door representing the idea of moving back and forth. The kaf is a picture of the palm of the hand representing a bowl from its shape. Combined, these mean the moving back and forth in a cup. Seeds are placed in a stone mortar, a stone cup. The stone pestle is moved around the cup to crush the seeds into powder. I'm also reminded of when we're told to crush all these idols to powder. We need to crush this thing. We need to allow this other seed to burst forth. We need to repent from the things that need to be repented from, die to these things, and crush this other seed inside of us. That's the only way that the true seed is going to burst forth inside of the soil it's been planted on in our heart. Revelation 20, verses 4-6. And I saw thrones, and they sat on them, and judgment was given to them. And the lives of those who had been beheaded, because they beheaded themselves from the ways of this world, from the prince of the power of the air, and that system and that body, because of the witness they bore to Yeshua, and because of the word of Elohim. The testimony of Yeshua and the word of Elohim will have you beheading yourself from that system. And who did not worship the beast, nor his image, nor did receive his mark upon their foreheads or upon their hands. Whatever's planted in your heart, whatever you're feeding, whatever you're nurturing, whatever you're watering is going to be at the forefront of your mind, and it's going to have you do whatever you do, and it's going to have you speaking however you speak. And what happened with these people who watered, nurtured the one seed and crushed the other one? And they lived and reigned with Messiah for 1,000 years. They were in the first resurrection, the first harvest. They were complete in the family. They were a family of heads. And not only them, but then they were going to go out and feed the nations. And the rest of the dead did not come to life until the 1,000 years were ended. This is the first resurrection. Blessed and set apart is the one having part in the first resurrection. The second death possesses no authority over these, but they shall be priests of Elohim and of Messiah, and shall reign with him 1,000 years. Another place we see the same Hebrew word used is in Psalm 19:8. The statutes of Yahweh are right. They're straight. They're pure. They press everything that he breathes from the very beginning. Rejoicing, simcha, the authority that's inside. The commandment of Yahweh is pure, enlightening the eyes. So the commandments of Yahweh are pure and bring revelation to our eyes. Because as we follow them, we should be receiving more revelation. He's not going to give us something more to do if we are already not doing what he's given us to do. 1 John 2:1-6. My little children, I write this to you so that you do not miss the mark, so that you do not sin. And if anyone sins, we have an intercessor with the Father, Yeshua Messiah, a righteous one. And he himself is an atoning offering for our sins, and not for ours only, but for all the world. And by this we know that we know him, if we guard his commands. It says in that day, we are going to know him and be like him. One of those requirements that is going to bring revelation to our eyes for us to see these other things is the fact that we're guarding his commands. The one who says, I know him and does not guard his commands is a liar, and the truth is not in him. Actually, the one that says as well, I have no sin, is a liar, and the truth is not in him. Keep that in mind. But whoever guards his word, truly the love of Elohim has been perfected in him. By this we know that we are in him. The one who says he stays in him ought himself also walk, even as he walked. Because the word, the person that he is, who he is, the word, everything from the El to the Ta, is a lamp unto our feet and a light unto our path. And that's enlightens or our eyes to be able to see where we're going. Everyone staying in him does not sin. Everyone sinning has neither seen him or known him. And in Psalm 119:18, open my eyes that I might see the wonders from your Torah. Absolutely mandatory for us to continue to receive revelation is continue to follow the commands that Yah has set before us. We cannot be a mature head of wheat without that piece. It's impossible. But it's not the only piece. So looking at the word, we're going to move to the B line now. The BV, we're in the same two-letter parent root, the Beit Resh, the family of heads. And we see at the BV, we have a Resh Beit Beit, or a Beit Resh Resh. The first definition is clean. The cleaning or polishing of something to make it bright and pure. We are going to be a shining, bright, white dressed bride if we've made that first resurrection. And that's where we want to be. Choice, something that is clean or pure. You get to make a choice. There is a choice involved. At the B family root, the concrete is soap. The stalks of grain were burned to make potash for making soap. Down there at the 1305 in the Strongs, we see it's a primitive root to clarify. That is brighten, examine, select. We are going to be examined and selected based on the choices we've made to be clean or be not clean, and the things we've used to do such. On the right-hand side, we see the 1828 dictionary. Clarify, to make clear, to purify from feculent matter. Okay, that means we buried the dung outside the camp. We need to get that garbage out of our lives. If it is of the world, it is enmity with Yahweh. We need to count it as dung, like Paul said. To make clear, to brighten or illuminate, applied to the mind or reason. To clear up, to grow clear or bright. His understanding clarifies in discoursing with another. Are we speaking in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs to each other? What language are we looking into to speak these things to each other? Are we using English dogma? Babylonian Aramaic? Are we coming from a Greek perspective? Examine. Again, we're in the 1828 dictionary. To inspect carefully with a view to discover truth or the real state of a thing, as to examine a ship to know whether she is seaworthy, or a house to know whether repairs are wanted. To search or inquire into facts and circumstances by interrogating, as to examine a witness. Be Bereans. To look into the state of a subject, to view in all its aspects, to weigh arguments and compare facts with a view to form a correct opinion or judgment. Let us examine this proposition. Let us examine this subject in all its relations and bearings. Let us examine into the state of this question. I really think that just speaks probably pretty much for itself, what we ought to be doing. Instead of listening teacher to teacher to teacher to teacher. Pick a couple. Listen to what they say and examine it. But as we're going to see, and I beseech you to please examine it from an ancient Hebrew pictographic perspective. Okay, this must be the next word. No, this is the same word. It is this word. Well, that was just the 1828 dictionary. Wow. Okay, so we're going back to the Strong's 1305 Barar, and we see it in this verse at Isaiah 52:12. Let's read 11 and 12. I'm going to turn to it in my scriptures. And remember, we're just going down this one route line here just to see the things, the ways, the who, what, when, where, why, and how of the people that are in the first resurrection, or not. Isaiah 52. Turn aside, come out from there. Touch not the unclean. Come out of her midst. Be clean, be Barar, you who bear the vessels of Yahweh. For you shall not come out in haste, nor go in flight, for Yahweh is going before you. And the Elohim of Yisrael is your, we see rear guard, it's actually gatherer. So we who are bearing the vessels of Yahweh, we are best vessels that are bearing the word and the seed of Yahweh inside of us. And if we're not clean, we cannot bear anything that anybody else might be bringing to us or teach them how to be a bearing vessel. It's kind of it's a double thing. We can't do it for us. We can't give somebody else something that we don't have. It is impossible. So this vessel is, I want to just look at it real quick, is Strong's H3627, because if we're bearing these vessels, if we're a vessel, something that is prepared, that is any apparatus, and as an implement, a utensil, a dress, a vessel, a weapon. We're supposed to be, our weapon is supposed to be the sword. It's supposed to be the word. How can it possibly be if it's not planted in our heart and nurtured and watered properly? We cannot be this bride in this fine white linen dress if we're not clean and prepared. It's the Kaf Lam. It comes from, as I lovingly say, the bride line. It's an AFM. It's a vessel for carrying or storing various materials. I'm thinking maybe oil. Action is to complete, concrete is vessel, abstract is whole, the container for holding content, something that is full or whole. We need to be filled up. At the two-letter root, action complete, concrete vessel, abstract whole. The Qaf is the bent palm representing the bending or subduing of the will, and the Lam is a picture of a shepherd's staff or yoke. Combine these mean tame for the yoke. An animal or land that is tame has been worked and is complete and ready for use. Complete and ready for use. Taming includes construction of holding pens, putting the soil to the plow, the soil of the heart, harvesting of crops, milk or meat. One eats, one has a marriage supper of the lamb, once the second harvest is complete. Turn aside, come out from there, touch not the unclean thing. We see that in the Brit. We must be clean, pure, emptied of ourselves, full of him to bear his burden as a vessel of Yah. And his burden is light. His yoke is light, his burden's easy. It's not a hard thing to do, even though sometimes it seems hard in the moment. Once that flesh is dead, it can stay dead. Hallelujah. Okay, same word. We're still looking at Strong's H1305. So examine, select, pure, clean, clarify, bright. So these clean vessels have a clean lip restored to them. Zephaniah 3:9. For then I shall turn unto the people a clean lip, so that they all call on the name of Yahweh to serve him with one shoulder. This clean lip is right here in the Ancient Hebrew Lexicon, 1339 AN1. It's a lip. The lip or the edge of something. Also, language is spoken from the lips. The concrete is lip. Action is to gather. Concrete is lip. The pictograph sin is a picture of the thorn representing a turning. The pei is a picture of a mouth. Combine these mean turning mouth. The rim or lips of a bowl which circle around it. The bowl is used for gathering things together and for eating. So we will be given this clean lip. It's being turned back to us. This is actually, we just saw the word rear guard is where we get the word rear guard. That's not rear guard, it's gathering, it's Asaph. So this clean lip is being restored to the clean vessels who are bearing the burden of Yahweh. We should be working together with one shoulder and building the house together. In order to gather people, we need to turn them sin to the words pei that is being revealed through what? The clean, pure language that has been breathed since the very beginning. We cannot give people what we don't have. It is imperative for us to start to study and to understand, because people are going to die. There is no guarantee in the second resurrection. So let's take a logical look at this clean lip, and because it's not Greek and it's not Aramaic and it's not many things. Acts 26:14-15. And when we had all fallen to the ground, I heard a voice speaking to me and saying in the Hebrew language, Shaul, Shaul, why do you persecute me? It is hard for you to kick against the prods. And I said, who are you, Master? And he said, I am Yeshua, whom you persecute. Let's just think about this for a minute. And I said, who are you, Master? And he said, I am the Aramaic Babylonian language that came out of captivity in Babylon so that you can be saved by it. I am the Greek English language. That's who I am. That's the word that I am. Absolutely not. He was this clean, pure, pictographic language that was breathed from the beginning. John 6:63-69. It is the spirit that gives life. The flesh does not profit at all. Zero, zip, zilch, nada. The words that I speak to you are spirit and life. But there are some of you who do not believe. For Yeshua knew from the beginning who they were who did not believe and who would deliver him up. And he said, because of this I have said to you that no one is able to come to me unless it has been given to him by my Father. Those who earnestly seek him, diligently seek him with all their heart, are going to find him. He knows. From then on, many of his taught ones withdrew and were not walking with him anymore. Yeshua therefore said to the 12, do you wish to also go away? Then Shimon Kepha answered and said, Master, to whom shall we go? You possess the Babylonian, Aramaic words of everlasting life that you should have breathed in the very beginning, because those are what's going to lead us into the kingdom. Absolutely not. You possess the words, everything from the pictographic El to the Ta, that not only began life, but lead us and possess and give us everlasting life. And we have believed and we know you are the Messiah, the Son of the living Elohim. So we're going to take a look at the negative side of this, because I know Sister Dawn likes to do that. You can see the giggle on her face right now. Oh, there it is. So what we're looking at is Exodus 20, verses 35 to 38. And I shall bring you into the wilderness of the peoples, and shall enter into judgment with you face to face there. And as I enter in, Ezekiel, my fault. And as I enter into judgment with your fathers, now she's really laughing at me, just so you know, Mike JV. As I enter into judgment with your fathers in the wilderness of the land of Mitzrayim, so I shall enter into judgment with you, declares Yahweh. And I shall make you pass under the rod, and shall bring you into the bond of the covenant, and purge, clean out, get rid of, not select. They're not pure, they're not bright. The rebels from among you, and those who transgress against me. From the land where they sojourn, I bring them out. But they shall not come into the land of Yisrael, and you shall know that I am Yahweh. So he's going to take these rebels. Brown Driver Briggs, rebellious against Elohim, against light. I thought that was interesting. Ancient Hebrew lexicon is a rebel, rebellion. It's a mem resh dal. It comes from the mem resh. It's this bitterness. So this bitterness comes from the mem resh, the water's head. What are they doing? What have we done? And what do we need to stop doing? We need to get out into the river of life, into the living water, and quit drinking from the stagnant pools that are at the water's head. That's where the enemy wants us to be. Because these waters head, if we keep drinking from them, Memresh, Dal, are going to shut the door in our face. We're going to be purged because we have not been made clean and bright and white. We were not pure for selection. And our conversation, one of the things, our conversation did not revolve around this clean, pure language so we could get to the true depths of Yahweh Elohim himself. We need it to be intimate, on an intimate level with him. The water is the word, and there really isn't life in stagnant water, not at an intimate level. So we move on to the next one. Same family root, family of heads, and it's a wing. The action is fly, the concrete is wing. The fowl fed on grain becomes strong for the long flight. We see H83, and the feminine is H84. Here we're looking at the H84. The H83 is probably the CN, and I didn't list it. So we're going to go to Deuteronomy 32, 9 through 12. For the portion of Yahweh is his people, Jacob his allotted inheritance. He found him in a wilderness, and in a wasted, howling desert. We are there today. We are so in the wilderness. Dry desert. He encompassed him. He made him understand. He watched over him as the apple of his eye. As an eagle stirs up its nest, flutters over its young, spreading out its kanaf, its wings, taking them up, bearing them on its wings. Yahweh alone led him, and there was no strange mighty one with him. There was no mixture. It was homogeneous, which is one of the words we saw in the root, not heterogeneous, where there was this mixture. When this first resurrection comes, it's going to be like he's bearing us up and flying us right over to Mount Zion so that the land will be cleansed and we will be with him there forever and ever. Like a mother eagle stirs up its nest, flutters over its young, spreads out its wings. That's a kanaf. That's a covering. It's the covering of the priestly garment. It's the wings, the corners of the garment, taking them up, bearing it. What covering are we walking under? We need to really consider what the scriptures are saying to us and what he's told us about the temporary covering that we were under at the sin of the golden calf, and that we have come out from under that and are now under the covering of the high priest, king of righteousness, that garment, that priesthood, that covering, as it was from the very beginning. When the family of heads are harvested, they're going somewhere that was just like in the beginning. It's got the same tree of life. We're not going somewhere different. Someone tells you that this is your high priest and it's not Yeshua, don't go there. If they say he's over here, don't go there. If they say he's over there, don't go there. Psalm 91, verses 1 to 4. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High, who abides under the shadow of the Almighty. He is saying of Yahweh, my refuge and my stronghold, my Elohim in who I trust. He delivers you from the snare of the trapper that would like you to water and nurture that other seed, and from the destructive pestilence. He covers Suk with his feathers, it's our word wing, and under his wings, kanaf, the covering of the priestly garment, you take refuge. His truth is a shield and an armor. So again, we see this. I just think it's just beautiful. We see he's covering us. So Suk, we are going to go in and Sukkot with him, and we are going to call the nations after the first resurrection to come and Sukkot with us. We will be borne up and brought there under his mighty wings. The next one we're going to look at is the 1043 C BM. Again, if you guys have your ancient Hebrew lexicons and you just got on here, please turn to page, 72, 73 now. 73 now. We're on the right-hand side at C, and then on the right-hand side is the BM. We see the B is strong. El Beit Yod Resh. He's strong. The L is strong. The mighty power of a bird in flight. Anything or anyone of great strength, physical or mental. At the C, we have the El Beit Resh. Action is to fly, concrete is wing. The fowl, fed on grain, becomes strong for the long flight. It's been a long journey home, and we're not there yet. Strong's is H46. It's from H82 as mighty, as spoken of Elohim. This strong, mighty, powerful, like a mother, but bearing us up and bringing us in. Isaiah 1, 23 to 28. Your rulers are stubborn, and companions, they're joined to, they're hooked to, they're haber of thieves, those whom the garden is protected from. Everyone loves bribes and runs after rewards. They do not defend the fatherless, nor the cause of the widows reach them. Therefore, the Master declares, Yahweh of hosts, the mighty one, the Aber, the strength of the house, whose outstretched arm is bringing us back to what was from the beginning of Israel. I shall be eased of my adversaries, and I shall be avenged of my enemies. They're going to get purged. And I shall turn my hand against you, and shall refine your dross with lye, and shall remove all your alloy. And I shall give back your judges as at the first, and your counselor as at the beginning. After this, you shall be called city of righteousness and steadfast cities. There's a process to go through. He's going to be eased of those who don't go through this process. This city of righteousness, a steadfast, a firm city. There's a new Jerusalem coming down. There's going to be nothing there but righteousness. And the king of righteousness, the Malach Zadok, whom we need to be following. Oh, wait, it's in the next verse. Zion shall be redeemed with right ruling, and her returning ones with righteousness. And the destruction of transgressors and of sinners is together. They're going to go together. And those who forsake Yahweh shall be consumed with a fire, with a burning, everlasting fire. They're going to be consumed. We don't want that for ourselves. How could we possibly not want this, to pass this to everybody that we possibly can, so that even if someone's not in the first resurrection, if we say we're there, we're done now. If someone's not, there's still an opportunity for them in the second, even though it's not guaranteed. So this mighty one of Israel, we need to keep in mind, he who is in us, he who is the El to the Tav and everything in between, he who is in us is greater than he who is in the world. We can do this. The next word is fill. It's actually at the EV, family root line. It's the fattening or filling up of something. The filling of the earth in Genesis 1 with the sun, moon, plants, animals, etc. The filling of man with life. Everything, the family of heads has been filled with El. It's right there, Beit Resh El. The family of heads has been filled with El. And the image of, should say Elohim, that is totally my fault. The action is fill, the concrete is fat. Grain is fed to the livestock for making them full or fat. What are we feeding each other? Strong's. Okay, well, here's our Strong's word again. Oh, this is this Strong's word, barar, a primitive root, absolutely, to create, qualified to cut down a wood, to select, to feed. Here we see Genesis 1:1. Probably many of us have heard this. In the beginning, Reshit, created, barar, Elohim, El Ta, Shemaim, El Ta, Eretz. In the beginning, Elohim created the heavens and the earth. What did he create them with? What did he create us with? Everything from the El to the Ta. It's the building blocks of everything. John 1, verses 1-3. In the beginning was the Word, was everything from the El to the Ta, the existence. He existed. That's the word was. Existence, in the beginning, existence, the Word. And the Word existed with Elohim, and the Word existed, it was Elohim. He was in the beginning, Reshit, with Elohim. All came to be through him, through the El Ta, through Elohim. And without him, not even one came to be that came to be. And there's still not one coming to be without him. Hebrews 11:3. By belief we understand that the ages were prepared by the word of Elohim, so that what is seen was not made of what is visible. Psalm 33:6, by the word of Yahweh, the Shemaim were made, and all their hosts by the spirit of his mouth. He spoke this word. The word was made up of pictographs. It created everything that exists. Colossians 1:9-20. This is just beautiful. We'll start at verse 16. Because in him, verse 16. Because in him were created all that are in the Shemaim and all that are on the Eretz, visible and invisible, whether thrones or rulerships or principalities or authorities, all have been created through him and for him, all of it. And he is before all, and in him all hold together. Who is holding us together? Are we even held together in this truth? And he is the head of the body, the resh. When you look at that very first word in Hebrew, the beit is a prefix. The head is at the very beginning. He's the head, the top, the authority, the leader of the body. There's a great study on this channel. I tell you, I cried for days when I did it. He who was, he who is, and he who is to come. I would encourage you all to go and watch that. And he is the head of the body, the assembly, who is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, that he might become the one who is first in all. Because in him all the completeness was well pleased to dwell. All the completeness, not just part of it. And through him to completely restore favor all unto himself. Nothing's going to come. His word is not going to return void. Whether on earth or in the Shemaim, having made peace through the blood of his stake. So we saw up here that one of the definitions in the Strong's was to feed. So who should be feeding us? Who should we be allowing to plant seed in our garden? Who should we be allowing to water and nurture the seed that has been planted in our heart? The tongue of the righteous is choice silver. The tongue of the Zadik is choice silver. The heart of the Rasha is of little value. The lips of the Zadik shepherd many, but the fools die for lack of heart. We should be being fed to provide feed or pasture to the flock. It should be the desire of the shepherd to be a man who watches over us. They are often his only companions, to place what was from the beginning, the resh in this first root line, so that we can know him, the ayin, when he is revealed in that day of the first resurrection. This is what we should be feeding each other, is this clean, pure language. Because the fools, the next one down, foolish, one without wisdom, to be without anything, such as nothing. It's the opposite at the end of the 1254 there. It's the opposite of El. It's law. It's perverse. It's silly. Anything that is opposite of what he first planted into the Shemaim and into the Eretz and into us is foolishness. It's all vanity, as Sister Dawn said this morning. So these fools die for lack of heart, lack of the proper authority that's inside of them. Someone or something that is lacking or diminished in quantity or quality. Lacking, hence without. We see there is no quality in what they're saying. They might have a lot of quantity because it says quantity or quality, but the quality of it is for naught. We saw it. We do not want our lives to be lived for naught. John 21, verses 13 to 17. Yeshua came and took bread and gave it to them, and the same with the fish. This was now the third time Yeshua was manifested to his taught ones after he was raised from the dead. When, therefore, they had eaten breakfast, Yeshua said to Shimon Kepha, Shimon, son of Yonah, do you love me more than these? And he said to them, Yea, Master, you know that I love you. And he said to them, Feed my lambs. Are we going to be doing anything different than Shimon Kepha? Was he feeding them something other than what was breathed from the very beginning? He's the one that asked the master, who's got the words of life? He said to him again a second time, Shimon, son of Yonah, do you love me? He said to him, Yea, Master, you know that I love you. He said to him, Shepherd my sheep. Feed them, bring them to pasture, get them to water, bring them to a place to rest after the long journey. He said to him a third time, Shimon, son of Yonah, do you love me? Kepha was sad because he said to him a third time, do you love me? Do we love him? Do we love him to give it all up? And he said to him, Master, you know all. You know that I love you. Yeshua said to him, Feed my sheep. Since he is the El to the Ta, and he is the Word, and the Word is these pictographs in their proper order, a righteous order, an order that produces righteousness, what should we be feeding others? What was he telling Kepha to feed others? Was he saying that which came from the Tower of Babel? That which came out of Babylon? Absolutely not. That which was from the very beginning, that which presents itself as a family of heads, two-letter roots, family of heads, in and of itself. It's a clean, pure language to turn people to the words that were originally spoken, the revelation, to bring them to the revelation when he is here, and eventually bring them back to the revelation of the tree of life in the garden. We need to study, hasten ourselves to be unadulterated so that we can pass it on. The next one in the family root is 1043, HN, and we see it's covenant, it's berit. A covenant is instituted through the sacrifice of a choice fatted animal, which is cut into two, and the parties of the covenant pass through the pieces. If one party fails to meet the agreements of the covenant, then the other may do the same to them. The action is eat, the concrete is meat, the abstract is covenant. The grain is used as food for man or livestock. Livestock-fed grains become fat and are the choicest for slaughter. In the Strongs, see it's 1285, it's barit, from 1262, in the sense of cutting, a compact, because it's made by passing through pieces of flesh. Genesis 15, I put it all up here. We're not going to read it all. Most of us pretty much know the story. He makes a covenant with Abraham, giving him this land to his seed from the river of Mitzrayim to the great river Euphrates. Yahweh himself passes through the pieces because, we've all heard it, because he knows that Abraham can't possibly keep the covenant himself. It's impossible. So he makes this barit, this covenant with Abraham, this land covenant with Abraham. And we see that down there in Genesis 15:18. Of course, guys can all go read that. So, why did he do that? Genesis 26. He's speaking to Yitzhak, Yahweh is, and I shall increase your seed like the stars of the Shemaim, and I shall give all these lands to your seed, and in your seed all the nations of the earth shall be blessed. Because Abraham obeyed my voice, eek, and guarded my charge, my commands, my laws, and my Torot. That's why he's in covenant. That's why there's a land covenant. There is a land covenant. We need to be obeying the rules. So Exodus 19, 5 and 6. But there's more. There's a marriage covenant. Somebody once said something that I found so profound. Let me see if I can pull it from the back of my head. He said, once the bride has learned to follow the house rules, Yahweh is able to give her more. Exodus 19, 5 and 6. And now, if you diligently obey my voice and shall guard my covenant, then you shall be my treasured possession above all peoples, for the earth is mine. And you shall be to me a reign of priests and a set-apart nation. Those are the words which you speak to the children of Yisrael. We need to guard the rules on the marriage ketubah of the marriage covenant. So the family of heads for the first harvest are obeying the rules that bring them into the land, and they are obeying the rules that are required for priesthood to be taken as the bride. There is so much more to this. Absolutely, we have to keep Shabbat. Absolutely, we have to eat clean. But are we bringing ourselves to be intimate in a marriage covenant with Yahweh? What kind of heart position are we doing those things from? And are we teaching others to do the same? It's imperative to understand that none of this intimate knowing, Yada of Yahweh, is possible without first, following the house rules, the tent floor plan, given by the head, Resh, from the beginning, that we might do the works and worship him in the proper way that would cause us to be marked for him and bring us to completion as a full and completed head. Once we obey the house rules, he can trust those who will be the bride with more. Intimacy grows over time. Okay, so we're going to go on to the next one, which is the JN. It's clean. The concrete is soap. It's 1252. It's Ba'or. It's from 1305. We saw was purity. In the 1828 Ancient Hebrew Lexicon, again, we see freedom from foreign admixture or heterogeneous matter. And then we see chastity and some of these other cleanness from foulness or dirt as the purity of a garment, purity of a linen vesture, freedom from guilt or the defilement of sin, as purity of heart or life. Chastity, freedom from contamination by illicit sexual connection, like maybe with a prostitute. Freedom, that would be Kodesh. You're set apart for one thing or you're set apart for another. If you get a chance, go look up that word Kodesh in the Ancient Hebrew Lexicon and see what it says at its root. Freedom from any sinister or improper views, as purity of motives or designs. Freedom from foreign idioms, or barbarous or improper words or phrases. The purity of style or language. Let's see David's take on this word. He delivered me from my strong enemy, and from them which hated me, for they were too strong for me. They prevented me in the day of my calamity, but Yahweh was my stay. Will you look up that H4937 there in Psalm 18:18? Tell me what that says. He brought me forth also in a large place. He delivered me because he delighted in me. 49:37. Yahweh rewarded me according to my tzedakah, righteousness. Should be like choice silver coming off of our lips. According to the cleanness of my hands, he recompensed me. We're not marked with our foreheads and our hands of the beast. We're going to receive recompense for that, but it's not going to be according to righteousness. For I have kept the ways of Yahweh and have not wickedly departed from my Elohim. For all his judgments were before me, and I did not put away his statutes from me. I was also upright before him, and I kept myself from mine iniquity. Therefore hath Yahweh recompensed me according to my righteousness, according to the cleanness, there we see it again, of my hands in his eyesight. With the merciful thou wilt show thyself merciful. With an upright man, a tom man, thou wilt show thyself upright. With the pure, which is where this word comes from, thou wilt show thyself pure. And with the froward, thou wilt show thyself froward. So, what David has to say about it. David, in verse 17, David said, He delivered me from my strong enemy, and from them which hated me, for they were too strong for me. Thinking David was probably righteous. So we see this first word, strong. 5794 is strong. The action is bold. The abstract is strong. The ion is a picture of the eye representing knowing. The Zion is a picture of a cutting implement. Combined, these mean know a weapon. Think your enemy doesn't know your weapon better than you do? Come on. We need to be so in tune and we need to just be so in tune and intimate with this word because the enemy truly knows it better than we do. He is strong, but Yahweh can be made strong in our weakness. We need to be found knowing our weapon. This enemy is an enemy. The action is hostile. That was funny. The concrete is spear, and the abstract is enemy. The tent pole is pointed at one end and doubles as a spear, which can be used against an enemy to defend. This tent pole is the Ob. It's the strength of the house, which can be used against an enemy to defend, also to support of the family. It comes from Ob, the tent pole, the strength of the house. So this strong enemy, you can see here at the bottom, Ayin Zion, an enemy is Elwah, Yod Beit. The enemy is using what should be our weapon against us because we allow him to know the weapon better than we do. The enemy's total function, knowing the weapon, Ayin Zion, is to come against the strength, the El of the house, Ob, against El himself. Against those El is securing Wah, those to whom he has stretched out his arm to, those doing what he's told them to do, those whose whole goal is to be in the Beit house of Elohim and bring the others with him. And if you are doing these things, he is coming against you. He's coming against us. He doesn't want you to know this. He doesn't want me to know this. He doesn't want any of us to know this, because then he's able to be strong over us. And from them which hated me, for they were too strong for me. So these ones which hated him were too strong. To be mentally strong, firm, obstinate, or courageous. Those that come against the pure language of Yahweh Elohim, to which we will be turned, which is given to the family of heads. Right now we're working towards the first resurrection, are generally strong, firm, obstinate, and very bold and courageous. A strong pressure or pressing of mental strength, of courage or determination. The Mem is the water representing might, the Zod representing the sides. Combined, these mean mighty sides. When one strengthens the sides, internal pressure is forced on the sides of the upper body. Ever feel pressed? Ever feel pressured? Ever feel like they got you strung up? You can know this weapon and be intimate with it. We can know this weapon and be intimate with it. We can be. In the 1828 Webster's Dictionary, actually the pressure isn't a bad thing, because when you have pressure on a stone, if it doesn't make it crack, you can You're pressurized into maybe a jewel? I don't know. 1828 Webster's Dictionary. Strong, powerful, forcible, cognate, adapted to make a deep or effectual impression on the mind or imagination. As a strong argument, strong reasons, strong evidence, a strong example or instance. He used strong language. What do we have here? We have these enemies that were strong. They were creating the strong chaos for those of us that are on the trail. He is determined, for his time is short. How determined are we? We will either become stronger from the pressure or we will break. Once again, he who is in us is greater than he who is in the world. What was that word, Dawn?
Hebrews 49:37. Mashon.
Okay, we're going to look at the H 49:37. They prevented me in the day of my calamity, but Yahweh was my stay. It's Hebrew 49:37. What's it say in the ancient Hebrew lexicon?
Now, we're going back to look here real quick.
She lost her place, you guys.
2861H.
Okay, 2861H in the ancient Hebrew lexicon.
And it says support.
The action is lean, the concrete is staff, and the abstract is support. His staff that we can lean on for support are his instructions, is his word, and his word is made up of everything that was breathed from the El to the Ta that was in the beginning. That was interesting. I wasn't expecting that. Okay, back to where we were. Thanks, Dawn. I was also upright before him, and I kept myself from mine iniquity. Verse 23. Guilt, the result of twisted actions. No twisted seed going on. Kept himself, guarded himself from being having a result of twisted actions, because he allowed a mixture. It was heterogeneous as opposed to homogeneous. Revelation 21:6-8, and he said to me, it is done. I am the El and the Ta. He's the El to the Ta, the beginning and the end. He's the beginning to the end. There is no end. To the one who thirsts, I shall give of the fountain of the water of life without payment. This will not be bitter, stagnant waters. This will be the waters of life. The one who overcomes shall inherit all this, and I shall be his Elohim, and he shall be my son, the seed from my house. But as for the cowardly and untrustworthy and abominable and murderers and those who whore and drug sorcerers and idolaters and all the false, their part is in the lake which burns with fire and sulfur, which is the second death, which is what we saw in Isaiah. They were going to be consumed together. Twisted. This is the result of these twisted actions, of following a twisted seed and not becoming intimate with Yahweh through who he truly is. Oh. We read that already. We won't read that again. But again, you're going to be marked one way or another. First resurrection, second resurrection has, the second death has no authority over you. Okay, we have two more we're going to look at. And these are actually adopted roots. Ancient Hebrew Lexicon 2520V. The V is cross. A bear. That's where we get our word Hebrew. To cross over a river or cross through a land. The action is cross at the root. The crossing over or passing through a land or water to gain access to the side beyond, praise Yah, comes from the Beit Resh, filling a land. What is the land going to be filled with? The completed family of heads that have grown up and been complete and ready for the harvest. If we are truly a Hebrew, if we have truly crossed over, if we are truly ready for the harvest, we must be following the commands and have the fullness of the testimony of Yeshua Messiah, the blood of the covenant. That's a covenant I didn't talk about. He who is Yah, who he is Yah, that he is the word, and what that word it is really made up of, and the King of Righteousness as our covering. Again, we can't give people what we don't have. If we don't cross over, we can't bring somebody else with us if we're not headed to the other side. We need to have, this is Aber, Ayin Beit Resh. We need to have a deep, intimate knowing. That's the Ayin, Yada, of Yahweh, to mature into one of the family, the Beit of heads. Last one, we're actually going to start in the Brit with this, and we're going to trace it back. Matthew 24, verses 24 to 25. For false messiahs and false prophets shall arise, and they shall show great signs and wonders, so as to lead astray, if possible, that's our word, even the chosen ones, the elect. See, I have forewarned you. G14:15 in the Strongs, powerful or capable, literally or figuratively, powerful, capable, able to prevail. The neuter form is possible. I ain't going to touch that. Psalm 112:2. His seed shall be mighty upon the earth. The generation of the upright, those who are pressing the beginning, shall be blessed. Psalm 89:19. We see that's the H1368 in that verse. We also see it in Psalm 89:19. Then thou spakest in vision to thy Holy One and said, I have laid help upon one that is mighty. I have exalted one chosen out of the people. Again, there we see our word for mighty. We traced it back. It's the Strong's H1368, as we saw from the Greek to the King James, from the polyglot to the King James. It's Gabor, intensive. It's intensive. From the same as H1397, powerful. By implication, warrior or tyrant. So up here we saw powerful or capable. Here we see powerful, by implication a warrior. We see it in the Ancient Hebrew Lexicon at 2052 EC, strong. At the root, we see the action is prevail and the concrete is a warrior. One of great strength, a warrior or authority. And again, it comes from the Beit Resh, great strength. It's a gam, a yod, a beit, a wa, and a resh. And on the left-hand side, we have our definitions. If it were possible, if the adversary were strong enough to change our walk, gam, from that of following the fullness of the word, to change the work, yod, we do, and how we worship, yod, according to the fullness of the word, in the power of the right hand, to keep us from the truth of the tent floor plan, which secures us a place under the head of man. If we are of the family of heads and we are walking, he said we had this strong enemy. Are we willing to line ourselves up and become intimate with he who is in us is greater than he who is in the world? Are we really diving into this place where we can get this strength, that we can truly be these warriors and be head and power and authority over this prince of the power of the air every time he comes at us with this garbage? Praise Yah. That's good stuff. Psalm 112, verses 1 through 3. Praise Yah, it says. Blessed is the man who fears Yahweh, who has greatly delighted in his commands. Mighty warriors in the earth shall be his seed. Gabor. The generation of the straight ones shall be blessed. This might not be our natural offspring. We can't give what we don't have. Wealth and riches are in his house, and his righteousness is standing forever. Again, there it is in the King James with the Strong's numbers. Revelation 12:9. And the great dragon was thrown down, that serpent of old, sneaky pants we call him, called the devil and Hasatan, who leads all the world astray. But it's impossible for the elect to be deceived if they're warriors. All doesn't always mean all. When Yahweh said he was going to destroy all the earth and every life that was on it in the days of Noah, Noah lived. Some animals lived. All is all those who choose not to be intimate with Yahweh Elohim, to resist the devil and not submit to him, become intimate with him through what he originally breathed. He was thrown down to the earth, and his messengers were thrown down with him. He's done nothing but want to exalt himself above Yahweh and be after those who would go after Yahweh. He is pursuing us because we are pursuing the deep levels of intimacy with Yahweh. Isaiah 10, 20-23. And in that day it shall be that the remnant of Israel and those who have escaped of the house of Jacob never again lean upon him who defeated them, but shall lean upon Yahweh. Oh, that was a good word earlier, Dawn. Lean. The set apart one of Israel in truth. Truth, because he is the truth. The truth in Hebrew is everything from the El to the Tau with the Mem Nun in the middle that causes his likeness to continue. A remnant shall return, the remnant of Jacob, to the mighty El. For though your people, O Israel, be as the sand of the sea, yet a remnant of them shall return, a decisive end, overflowing with righteousness. They are completely consumed with that which is in the word. Can't remember the last letter in that word. Let's go look it up. Isaiah 10:22. Overflowing. They're gushing. They're inundated. To flow over with copious amounts of water. It's a shin, a tet, and a pei. The shin, they are consumed. The tet, with what is contained, pei, in the words of Yah and what those words are made up of. And it overflows from them. And there will be a decisive end. There will be a decision made. The decisive end is going to go one of two ways, in the first resurrection and in the second resurrection. For the Master Yahweh of hosts is making a complete end as decided in the midst of all the earth. And again, for then I shall turn unto the peoples a clean lip, so that they all call on the name of Yahweh to serve him with one shoulder. The remnant of Israel shall do no unrighteousness and speak no falsehood, nor is a tongue of deceit found in their mouth, for they shall feed their flocks and lie down with none to frighten them. Shout for joy, O daughter of Zion. Shout, O Israel. Be glad and rejoice with all your heart, O daughter of Yerushalayim. Yahweh has turned aside your judgments. He has faced your enemy, because he who is in you is greater than he who is in the world. The sovereign of Israel, Yahweh, is in your midst. No longer need you fear evil. Yoke's gone. In that day it shall be said to Yerushalayim, do not fear Zion. Do not let your hands be weak. Yahweh your Elohim is in your midst. He is mighty to save. He rejoices over you with joy. He is silent in his love. He rejoices over you with singing. So my question to all of us, are we one of the few? Luke 10, 1-3. And after this, the master appointed 70 others and sent them 2 by 2. You don't have to do it alone. Ahead of him into every city and place where he himself was about to go. Then he said to them, the harvest indeed is great, but the workers are few. Therefore pray the master of the harvest send out workers into his harvest. Go, see, I send you out as lambs into the midst of wolves. He who is in us is greater than he who is in the world. I would beseech everyone to get these books and to look into this language and to see the intimacy that Yahweh Elohim wants to have with each one of us, to grow us up into a complete head on the stalk. Praise Yahweh and shalom to everyone.